The vast emptiness of space stretched before the small human colony on the edge of explored territory. Commander J. Park stood on the observation deck of Outpost Epsilon, his eyes scanning the star-filled darkness. The colony was young, barely 5 years old, a collection of modular structures and carefully constructed habitat domes nestled against the rocky terrain of a distant planet. Communication arrays picked up the first signs of incoming vessels long before visual confirmation. Jay's second-in-command, Lisa Rodriguez, noticed the unusual energy signatures first. Her fingers flew across the holographic control panel, pulling up detailed scans of the approaching ships. "Sir," she called out, her voice measured but tense. "We've got multiple unidentified vessels approaching from the Orion sector." The ships were unlike anything humans had encountered before. Sleek and organic-looking, they moved with a precision that suggested intelligence far beyond simple mechanical navigation. Their hull design seemed to shift and change, almost breathing against the black backdrop of space. In the colony's primary control center, tension began to build. Technicians and military personnel moved with controlled urgency, preparing defensive protocols while trying to maintain calm. Young engineers like Min Kim checked and rechecked communication systems, hoping to establish some form of dialogue. J. Park knew something was different about these visitors. Their approach wasn't typical of exploration or peaceful contact. There was a calculated precision to their movement that suggested something else entirely. The first communication came unexpectedly, not through standard radio frequencies but as a complex mathematical sequence that appeared simultaneously on every display in the outpost. It was a language of numbers, of precise calculations that seemed to pulse with an underlying threat. Translation. Systems worked frantically to decode the message. When it finally became clear, the meaning was chilling. "Surrender is the only acceptable outcome," the message read. "Resistance will result in complete elimination." Lisa Rodriguez looked at Jay, her hand instinctively moving to the emergency communication switch. "They're not here to talk," she said quietly. The colony's defense systems, initially designed as a precautionary measure, now hummed with potential energy. Automated turrets adjusted their targeting systems. Protective shields began to shimmer around the primary habitat domes. Outside, the alien vessels drew closer. Their design was unlike anything in human records, part biological, part mechanical, with a complexity that suggested technologies far beyond current human understanding. They moved like predators, calculating and patient. J. Park knew they had mere minutes to make a decision that would determine the fate of over 5,000 colonists. The outpost wasn't just a military installation. It was home to families, scientists, engineers, an entire community that had traveled light years to build something new. "Prepare defensive protocols," he commanded, "but do not fire unless directly attacked." The alien ships began to take up strategic positions around the colony. Their approach suggested not just technological superiority, but a cold, calculated intelligence that viewed humans as nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. Min Kim, one of the younger engineers, noticed something peculiar in the energy readings. The alien ships were charging some form of weapon system, but it wasn't like any known offensive technology. It seemed to be preparing to do something more than simply destroy. "Commander," Min called out, "their energy signature is strange. It's not just a weapon, it's something else." The moment stretched. Thousands of miles from Earth, on the edge of explored space, humanity faced its first true test of survival. The aliens had come. The choice was simple: submit or fight. And humans, as a species, were not known for submitting. J. Park's hand hovered near the defense activation switch. The colony held its breath. Outside, the alien ships continued their silent, menacing approach. First contact was about to become something entirely unexpected. "Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story?" The first wave came without warning. Alien dropships descended through the planet's atmosphere, their metallic bodies glowing with an unnatural purple light. They moved with a precision that suggested something more than simple mechanical navigation. a living intelligence that anticipated and calculated every possible defensive response. Lieutenant Sung Kim watched from the underground command center. Her hands were steady on the communication console, tracking the incoming vessels. The colony's initial defense systems began to activate. Automated turrets rising from hidden positions, energy shields flickering to life around critical infrastructure. The alien troops were unlike anything humans had encountered. They moved like liquid metal, shifting and adapting with each step. Their weapons appeared to be part of their body, organic extensions that could change shape and function in milliseconds. Where human soldiers carried equipment, these creatures were the equipment. First contact became a brutal dance of survival. The colonists had prepared, but preparation meant nothing against such overwhelming technological superiority. The first defensive line collapsed within minutes. Modular structures that had taken years to build crumbled like paper against the alien assault. "They're not just attacking," Sung muttered to her team. "They're studying us." Each alien movement seemed calculated to gather information. They didn't simply destroy. They examined, analyzed, probed for weaknesses. Entire sections of the colony were quarantined and dissected with surgical precision. Young colonists who had trained for emergency scenarios now found themselves facing a nightmare beyond their worst preparations. Families rushed to underground shelters. Engineers rerouted critical systems. Children were moved to the most protected sections of the underground complex. Min Park, a young communications specialist, discovered something unexpected. The alien communication systems had a pattern, a rhythm that suggested more than random attack. They were collecting data with every movement, every weapon discharge, every moment of contact. "They're learning," Min reported to Lieutenant Sung. "Every defensive move we make, they're adapting immediately." The colony's advanced warning systems proved nearly useless. Traditional military tactics became obsolete within the first hour of invasion. The aliens moved through defensive lines like water through a broken dam, fluid, unstoppable, relentless. But humans had something the aliens didn't understand: unpredictability. Sung Kim made a decision that would change everything. Instead of fighting a traditional defensive battle, she began to implement completely unexpected strategies. Mining equipment became weapons. Communication networks were transformed into jamming systems. Agricultural machinery was retrofitted with improvised defensive capabilities. The colony wasn't just fighting, it was evolving. Alien troops found themselves facing challenges they couldn't immediately calculate. A simple farming drone, reprogrammed and weaponized, could suddenly become a deadly threat. Communication systems were turned into complex trap networks that confused and disoriented the invading force. Underground tunnels, originally designed for resource management and emergency, evacuation became a complex maze of resistance. Each tunnel was a potential ambush point, each intersection a potential trap. "We are not going to lose," Sung told her team. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of human determination. The initial invasion was brutal. Sections of the colony were lost. Lives were taken. But with each moment, the humans learned. They adapted. They found ways to turn their apparent weakness into unexpected strength. The aliens had come expecting a simple conquest. They found something else entirely. A species that refused to be defeated. A colony that would fight to its last breath. Moment in human history that would be remembered across the stars. The invasion continued. But something was changing. The hunters were becoming the hunted, and the aliens were just beginning to understand what they had truly awakened. Alien commanders discovered something terrifying. Humans didn't fight like any species they had encountered before. There was no standard response, no predictable pattern. Every moment brought a new, unexpected challenge. Young colonists who were miners, engineers, and communication specialists became warriors. Their weapons were not just physical, they were intellectual. Each attack was a complex puzzle, each defensive move a creative solution. The counter-offensive wasn't just about survival, it was a statement about human potential. Massive alien battleships that had seemed invincible began to fall. not through raw firepower but through intelligent, creative technological warfare. Systems designed for perfect calculation were overwhelmed by human unpredictability. "We are not just defending," Captain J. Park transmitted to the entire human fleet. "We are responding." The message was clear. Humanity would not be a victim. Communication intercepts revealed growing panic among alien commanders. Their perfect invasion plan was falling apart. Humans were doing something impossible, turning advanced technological superiority into a disadvantage. Each human attack was a lesson in creative destruction. Mining lasers became precision weapons. Communication networks transformed into complex battle strategies. Agricultural sensors became advanced detection systems. The colony's survival was no longer in question. They were winning. As the battle continued, something remarkable happened. The aliens began to retreat, not because they were militarily defeated, but because they could not understand or predict human technological response. Humanity had shown something fundamental. Technology was not just about advanced equipment. It was about creativity, adaptability, and the ability to transform challenges into opportunities. The counteroffensive was more than a battle. It was a revolution, and it was just beginning. Would you like me to continue with the final part of the story? News traveled fast across the galaxy. The small human colony had not just survived an alien invasion. They had completely destroyed a technologically superior force. Communication networks buzzed with recordings of the battle, analyzing every moment of human resistance. Other spacefaring civilizations watched with a mixture of shock and fascination. The alien confederation, which had believed humans were a simple, primitive species, now understood something different. Humans were not just survivors. They were evolutionary wildcards. Lieutenant Sung Kim became more than a military leader. She became a symbol of human potential. Her strategic recordings were studied in communication academies across multiple star systems. The way she had transformed a potential extinction event into a decisive victory was unprecedented. The remnants of the alien invasion fleet limped back to their home systems. Their commanders could not explain what had happened. How could a supposedly primitive species defeat their most advanced technological systems? Captain J. Park received communications from distant human colonies. They were no longer afraid. The story of their resistance had spread like wildfire. Every human settlement now understood that they were not alone. They were not weak. Wu Li's technological innovations became studied across multiple research centers. His ability to turn mining equipment into advanced weapon systems challenged everything known about technological adaptation. Universities began developing entire departments focused on studying human creative problem-solving. The galactic communication networks carried one simple transmission, a message that would become legendary across multiple star systems. Lieutenant Sung Kim's final communication to the retreating alien fleet was brutally simple. "This is what happens when you mess with humans." Those 6 words became more than a message. They became a warning. Other alien civilizations began to reassess their understanding of humanity. The humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something entirely different, a species that could turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth. Economic systems across the galaxy began to change. Trade negotiations with human colonies became more complex. Corporations understood that humans brought something unique to every interaction, an ability to innovate that defied standard calculation. The small colony that had been on the edge of destruction became a beacon of hope, not just for humans, but for every species that had ever felt threatened by more technologically advanced opponents. Young humans across different colonies began to see themselves differently. They were not victims. They were potential revolutionaries. Each child understood that creativity was the most powerful weapon in the universe. The Alien Confederation's intelligence reports became filled with warnings. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were not to be threatened. They were to be respected. Scientific research centers began studying human psychology. What made this species so different? How could they transform challenges so quickly? Their ability to adapt was becoming legendary. Captain J. Park received diplomatic communications from multiple alien governments. They were not asking for war. They were asking for understanding. They wanted to know how humans had achieved the impossible. The battle was over, but the real revolution was just beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy something fundamental. Technology was not about perfect systems. It was about creative thinking. It was about the ability to transform weakness into strength. The small colony that was supposed to be destroyed had become a turning point in galactic history. And the message was clear. Humans were here. And they were not going anywhere. Would you like me to provide any additional details or clarify anything about the story? Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Engineer Wu Li hadn't slept in 3 days. His workspace was a chaos of broken alien technology, modified human equipment, and countless holographic displays dancing with complex algorithms. The colony's survival depended on what he could create in these critical hours. The alien invasion had destroyed most of their standard communication systems. But Wu understood something fundamental about technology. Every system had a weakness. Every network could be broken. His breakthrough came unexpectedly. By analyzing fragments of alien communication signals, he discovered a unique frequency pattern. These invaders communicated differently, not just through radio waves, but through a complex quantum entanglement network that allowed instantaneous information transfer. If we can interrupt their communication, Wu explained to Lieutenant Sung, we can create total chaos in their systems. The plan was audacious. They would use the aliens' own communication technology against them. Small devices cobbled together from mining equipment and communication arrays would be strategically placed to create massive interference. Young technicians worked alongside Wu, their fingers moving rapidly across complex interfaces. They were no longer just defenders. They were becoming technological warriors. The first test came unexpectedly. A small drone, modified with Wu's quantum disruption technology, was launched near an alien command ship. The results were immediate and stunning. The alien vessel's systems began to flicker, its precise movements becoming erratic. Communication between alien troops suddenly became fragmented. Navigation systems went haywire. Weapon platforms began firing randomly, creating confusion within their own ranks. What the aliens had considered a simple invasion was transforming into something entirely different. Lieutenant Sung watched the initial results with a calculated smile. Human adaptability was proving to be their greatest weapon. Where the aliens expected predictable responses, humans created chaos. Mining lasers were repurposed into communication jammers. Agricultural sensors became advanced detection systems. Every piece of technology was being reimagined as a potential weapon. The colony's engineers worked in shifts, pushing human technological innovation beyond its previous limits. They weren't just defending. They were evolving their entire technological ecosystem in real time. Wu Li's team discovered something even more remarkable. The alien technology, while advanced, had a fundamental weakness. It relied on extremely precise communication networks. By introducing small, almost imperceptible disruptions, they could create massive systemic failures. They think in perfect calculations, Wu explained. We think in creative chaos. Alien dropships began falling from the sky, not through direct weapon attacks, but through systematic technological disruption. Their advanced navigation systems became confused. Weapon platforms began targeting their own units. The human response was becoming a masterclass in technological warfare. Young colonists who had been trained as engineers, technicians, and communication specialists were now on the front lines of a new kind of battle. They weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. They were technological warriors using intelligence and creativity as their primary weapons. Lieutenant Sung understood the significance of what was happening. This wasn't just a defense. This was a statement about human potential. By the end of the week, nearly 60% of the alien invasion force had been neutralized, not through traditional warfare, but through systematic technological disruption. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had underestimated human creativity, and now they were paying the price. The technological response was just beginning, and humanity was just getting started. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? The transformed mining vessel moved silently through the darkness of space. Once designed to extract resources from distant asteroid fields, it now carried the hopes of an entire human colony. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays showing alien fleet movements. They had turned their weakness into strength. Every piece of equipment became a potential weapon. The ship's industrial laser cutters were now precision strike systems. Communication arrays transformed into advanced jamming technologies. What the aliens saw as simple mining equipment was about to become their nightmare. Target their primary communication nodes, Jay ordered. His voice was calm, calculating. The first strike came without warning. The modified mining vessel unleashed a barrage that was anything but standard military attack. Quantum disruption. Waves mixed with electromagnetic pulses created a nightmare scenario for the alien fleet. Their most advanced systems began to collapse from within. Lieutenant Sung Kim managed the tactical systems. Her fingers moved with surgical precision, exploiting every tiny weakness in the alien defensive networks. Where traditional military strategists would see limitations, she saw opportunities. The alien ships began to drift. Their perfect formations dissolved into chaos. Each disruption created more vulnerability, and humans were experts at finding and exploiting vulnerabilities. Small attack vessels, cobbled together from transport shuttles and mining equipment, swarmed like intelligent insects. They weren't powerful individually, but together they created a technological storm that the aliens couldn't predict or counter. Engineer Wu Li had prepared something special. Hidden within the attack waves were complex algorithmic viruses that didn't just disable alien systems. They began to learn from them. Each interaction made the human technological response more intelligent, more adaptive. The colony had transformed from a potential victim to a technological predator.